It really makes you wonder these days, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Scrolling through something like Reddit, you can't help but think, who am I actually talking to here?
Yeah.
It feels like the lines between real people and, well, something else are getting blurrier all the time.
That sense of uncertainty is definitely growing. It's kind of a natural response to, well, how fast things are changing online.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. We've got some fascinating material from one of you. We're calling him the learner.
Ah, okay.
They're clearly tuned into all this buzz around AI experiments, on places like Reddit.
Right.
And they've also got this big question mark hanging over YouTube comments. Like,
Mm.
how many of those are real people?
Those are definitely key questions right now. Understanding that mix of human and, well, artificial input is crucial. It's really reshaping how we talk and what we believe online.
Absolutely. The learner even mentioned some reports, AI researchers running experiments on Reddit forums,
Mm-hmm.
creating bots designed to, like, sway opinions. And that got them thinking, could some Reddit comments, they shared a few with us, could those be AI?
Interesting.
One comment really stood out to them. It was about alcoholism, a really tough personal situation. And they said it had this stylistic echo of a Raymond Carver story.
Wow, that's a pretty sharp observation. AI is getting better at mimicking styles, even literary ones.
Yeah.
Though, sometimes it might just be a coincidence or maybe just a surface level thing.
Right. So our mission today is to really get under the hood of these Reddit comments, see if there are any like telltale signs pointing to AI, especially with these influence experiments in mind.
Makes sense.
And then tackle that big question about YouTube bots.
Yeah.
How common are they really? Does it change depending on the video? And what's it doing to, engagement and how we see online chat?
Good plan. Starting with the Reddit comments gives us something concrete to dig into before the broader picture.
Okay, let's unpack these comments first.
Yeah.
The first one from @NancyBealtel5492. It's very personal. About her husband's alcoholism.
Right.
She talks about the physical signs, treatments failing, her own sadness, feeling hopeless. What jumped out, and I see it too, is how blunt it is. Very direct. Short sentences like bang, bang, bang. Raw emotion, and a couple of typos, teep for tear, line out for lost.
Those are definitely interesting details. That kind of minimal style, yeah, I can see the Carver comparison.
Right.
And typos. Well, humans make them all the time, obviously. But AI can too. Sometimes it's a system limit, sometimes maybe even deliberate, trying to seem more human.
And this connects to that University of Zurich report you mentioned earlier.
Exactly, the Change My View experiment.
Yeah, they put AI bots in there, right?
All right.
And gave them these detailed personas, emotional backstories.
They did. Someone claiming to be a rape victim, a black man arguing against BLM, I think even a trauma counselor.
Whoa.
Yeah, creating these AI characters specifically to influence the conversation.
So using those really personal, emotional stories was strategic then.
Oh, absolutely. The Zurich researchers clearly knew that kind of narrative grabs people, shapes the discussion, maybe even changes minds.
Mm-hmm.
That comment about the husband's alcoholism, it definitely has that same kind of vulnerable personal storytelling feel.
Exactly. Then you look at the other short comments in that same thread. Things like, I live this life. God, please save me. It hurts.
Yeah.
And this was my life until I decided enough was enough. I've been sober for 6 years now.
Yeah.
Brief, emotional, sharing an experience, or offering support.
Precisely. And that fits perfectly with how you might design a bot to blend in on Reddit.
Right.
Short, relatable comments expressing a feeling, a quick anecdote. They just slide into the conversation easily.
Huh?
Less likely to raise flags.
Uh-huh.
Reports have even said these bots learn to mimic Reddit's specific tone, even the sarcasm.
Huh.
So these shorter comments could just be bots trying to build a presence without sticking out too much.
Okay. Then there's the longer one at Chris Huber 3262. More involved. Says they're a functional alcoholic biochemist. Open about drinking, functions at work, but admits the physical toll.
Yeah.
Yet keeps putting off change.
Right.
Lots of specifics, the job, this sort of honesty about it, but mixed with contradictions.
Yeah, that kind of detailed self-disclosure plus the internal conflict. I know it's bad, but I'm not ready yet. That's pretty compelling.
It is.
It feels credible. It invites engagement. Think back to those Zurich personas, again, the male rape victim, downplaying trauma, the domestic violence counselor. They were designed to get specific reactions. This functional alcoholic biochemist could be similar, start a discussion, get sympathy, maybe arguments about addiction.
So putting it all together, What's the verdict on these Reddit comments and the AI experiments?
Well, look, we can't know for sure these came from that specific Zurich study without their bot list. That's the key caveat.
Right, of course.
But the patterns, especially that first comment, the emotional narrative one, they really do line up well with the methods described in that research. And don't forget how effective those Zurich bots supposedly were, shifting opinions nearly 20% of the time, compared to, what, 2% for humans? If that's accurate. That's huge.
It really is. Wow. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. The learner also had a lot on their mind about YouTube comments.
Ah, yes.
They were wondering, what percentage might be bots? Does it vary by video type? You even joked that maybe comments seem more rational lately because the bots are getting smarter. Or maybe they're just getting older.
A relatable thought. Well, YouTube doesn't release official numbers on bots, obviously.
No surprise there.
But we can piece things together from research and just, general user chatter.
So what is the general feeling? Are people noticing more bots?
Definitely seems that way. You look at places like Quora, people are talking more about seeing AI comments. Sometimes the exact same comment on totally different videos.
Yeah. And while it's, way out there, that dead internet theory.
Oh, yeah. The idea that almost everything will be AI soon. Right, like 99% by 2025 or something crazy. It reflects that general anxiety, that feeling that maybe a lot of what we see isn't real human interaction anymore. It's also worth noting, though, that a huge chunk of YouTube videos, maybe over 70%, have no comments at all.
Oh, interesting.
So bot activity, when it happens, is probably concentrated on the more visible stuff.
That makes sense. So how does it break down by category? Music, gaming, news?
Well, based on what we know, music videos, probably pretty high bot counts, lots of eyes on them. Gaming's another big one. Lots of bots promoting cheats, virtual currency, that kind of thing. News and politics, definitely vulnerable. And probably to more sophisticated bots trying to actually influence opinions. Remember that Notre Dame study?
Where people couldn't easily tell AI from humans in political chats.
Exactly. Those bots are getting good.
So not just the old spam anymore.
Not really. These newer systems use advanced language models. They can make comments that fit the context sound coherent.
Okay. What about other areas?
Educational stuff, tutorials, probably fewer bots there. But trending videos, anything going viral, that attracts them, trying to ride the wave of visibility.
Gotcha. And what about that idea, comments seeming more rational lately? Is there anything to that?
There probably is, actually. A few things could be going on.
Like what?
Well, like we said, the AI itself is just better now. That Notre Dame finding AI indistinguishable a lot of the time. They generate stuff that makes more sense in context.
Go ahead.
Plus, YouTube's own filtering has likely improved. They're probably catching more of the really obvious junk.
And creators moderating their own channels.
That too. And YouTube even has its own AI tools now, right? Summarizing comments, suggesting replies. That might indirectly make the whole comment section feel a bit more curated, maybe more rational.
Okay, so smarter bots and better filtering and moderation. Makes sense. Now, the learner also brought up golden ratios.
Ah, the engagement pattern.
Yeah, the typical balance between, lurkers and commenters. They wondered if even if bots try to seem normal individually, maybe just the sheer number of them throws off these natural ratios.
That's a really, really sharp point because, yes, online communities do tend to have pretty consistent engagement patterns.
Like the 99-1 rule.
Exactly. 90% lurkers, 9% occasional contributors, 1% active creators. That's the classic model. Though some newer research suggests participation might be a bit higher now, maybe up to a third contributing in some way.
Okay, so how do bots mess that up?
Well, they can just inflate the numbers artificially. That 2023 study found those social scam bots pretending to be users, commenting, interacting. They were found on almost a third of the videos they looked at. So suddenly your comment section looks way busier than it naturally would be.
Right, distorting the ratios.
Totally. Normally on YouTube, you might see, 0.5% comments per view, maybe 4% likes per view. Bots can just blow up the comment numbers.
And marketers look for that.
Yeah, it's actually a sign they look for to spot fake engagement. Like tons of views, but hardly any subscribers. Or a really low viewer to subscriber ratio. Red flags.
So YouTube itself must be watching these ratios like a hawk.
Oh, absolutely. They talk about verifying metrics, adjusting counts to remove fake activity. Their algorithms have got to be looking for those weird imbalances. But the bots are getting smarter too, right? Targeting specific audiences, making relevant comments, even liking their own comments to make them look popular.
Wow. So it's just this constant back and forth.
Pretty much. A classic arms race between the bot makers and the platforms.
Which leads perfectly into another question from the learner. They asked if the bot makers might actually have an edge now.
An edge? How so?
Well, with AI tools being so much more available, like the big platforms used to have all the AI brain power, but now has democratized AI leveled the playing field?
That's a really critical question right now. And yeah, wider access to AI has definitely changed things. Bot makers have distributed resources. They often have, let's call them asymmetric goals. They only need to get through sometimes. Platform defenses need to work all the time.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, getting powerful AI isn't just for Google or Meta anymore. Plus, there's money in it, right? Fake engagement, influence campaigns, strong motivators.
But the platforms aren't exactly powerless, are they? They must still have advantages.
Oh, for sure. Massive data advantage. They see everything happening on their site. They control the infrastructure. They can make technical changes.
Right.
There's also growing pressure from regulators to crack down. And platforms are starting to work together more, sharing info on bot networks.
It's not like one side is clearly winning.
Not really, no. It's more like constant evolution. Platforms might be shifting strategy, maybe focusing less on eradicating every single bot, which is probably impossible anyway.
So what do they do?
Maybe focus more on containment, using really sophisticated ranking, filtering based on quality, trying to limit the impact of the bots, even if they can't eliminate them all.
Ah, quality-based filtering. That's another thing the learner brought up.
Okay.
They compared it to how Google deals with those junky, made-for-AdSense websites. Focus on value, not necessarily who made it.
An interesting comparison.
But they were worried this creates a massive loophole for manipulators.
And you've just hit on a really, really critical vulnerability there. Because, yeah, filtering based on quality sounds practical, but it absolutely opens the door for sophisticated influence ops.
How so?
Well, what is quality? It's subjective, right? Someone running an influence campaign can generate stuff that looks reasonable, sounds valuable, enough to pass a filter.
Even if the goal is manipulation.
Exactly. It creates this sort of acceptability threshold. If the comment or content clears that bar, it gets through, regardless of the real intent behind it. And then you still have the problem of amplifying that seemingly quality content using networks of fake accounts. That's still hard to stop.
So why do influence operations do so well in this kind of environment?
A few reasons. Plausible deniability is huge. If the content seems okay on the surface, it's harder to justify taking it down.
Right.
Modern campaigns are good at blending in, making their stuff look like genuine discussion. AI makes it cheap and easy to scale these operations up massively. And maybe platforms feel a bit safer relying on quality judgments for moderation. Gives them some cover.
So just filtering by quality isn't enough. What else could be done?
It's probably not a complete solution on its own, no. You likely need more transparency about where content comes from.
Like who made it?
Yeah, or at least more signals about the source. Evaluating content in context, who posted it, what network are they part of, giving users more info to judge sources themselves, and maybe focusing the really intense integrity efforts on high-stakes areas like elections or health crises. Quality filtering is part of the toolbox, but it can't be the only tool.
Wow, this is all incredibly complex. But there was one last thing the learner really wanted us to dig into.
Okay.
A really smart observation about that Zurich experiment again.
Back to Zurich.
Yeah. They asked a really basic but crucial question. How did the researchers actually know which accounts in their comparison group were really human?
Oh, that's an absolutely brilliant and fundamental question. You've just pinpointed a massive weakness in that study.
Really? What's the problem exactly?
Well, think about it. The researchers claimed their AI bots went undetected, right? That they seemed human.
Yeah.
They then used that to argue their AI was super persuasive, way better than humans at changing minds.
Right, the 20%, Benny is 2% thing.
How did they establish that human baseline to compare against? If their own findings say AI is hard to spot, how could they be sure the accounts they use for comparison weren't also sophisticated bots?
Whoa. Okay, that sounds like circular reasoning.
It's textbook circular reasoning. They're basically saying, look, AI is indistinguishable from humans, and we've proved our AI is more persuasive than humans. But they didn't have a reliable way to verify the humans in their human group.
So they couldn't actually be sure who they were comparing their bots to.
Exactly. They apparently used language models to guess user traits from post history, but other AI could mimic that easily. Their success metric was users saying, you changed my mind, getting a delta. But again, if you can't verify the user giving the delta, It could be another bot. There just seem to be no robust controls mentioned for filtering out other potential non-human activity in their own experiment.
So that headline-grabbing claim, AI being way more persuasive, it's built on shaky ground.
Extremely shaky ground. Without a verified human baseline, the best they can say is they compared their AI bots to some unknown mix of Reddit accounts. Maybe some human, maybe some other bots.
Wow.
The irony is, their own conclusion, nobody spotted our bots, directly undercuts their ability to say anything definitive about AI versus actual humans. It shows how hard this research is getting. How do you find a clean human control group anymore?
And right on that point, the learner had one more thought.
Yeah.
Did the researchers even consider using account age?
Account age as a filter?
Yeah, like maybe older accounts are more likely to be real people. Did they mention filtering for established accounts at all?
That's another great question. After looking through the details available on their methods, nope. There is zero indication they used account age or any similar verification to try and isolate established human accounts.
So they didn't even try that.
Doesn't appear so. And that just hammers home the flaw we were talking about. Their whole comparison relies on assuming they knew who the humans were, but their method lacked any solid way to do that. It really casts a huge shadow over their findings.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. We've covered a lot today.
Really have.
We looked at those Reddit comments, saw how they could fit the profile of AI-influenced bots, even if we can't be sure.
Right. The patterns were suggestive.
We talk about YouTube bots, way more common than you might think, getting smarter, messing with engagement ratios, varying across different types of videos.
And how platforms and bot makers are locked in that ongoing arms race.
Exactly. And how just filtering by quality isn't a silver bullet, especially against influence campaigns.
For a very tricky problem.
And maybe the biggest takeaway, that huge methodological hole in the Zurich study, the lack of a verified human baseline, just completely undermines their big claims about persuasiveness.
It really does. And I think the overarching theme here is just how hard it's getting to tell what's real online.
Yeah.
The lines are blurring so much, and even the research trying to study it can run into these fundamental problems.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. If even academic studies like Zurich's have these basic flaws in telling humans from AI, how much of what you see online, what feels like genuine chat or debate, might actually be influenced or even totally generated by AI? And what does that mean for how we understand online groups, public opinion?